All right, today we're going to take a deep dive into that amazing, complex organ sitting right between your ears. We're going to challenge some of the biggest ideas we think we know about our own minds. We'll bust some myths, see how our brains really work, and maybe even discover how something some people call a disability could actually be a superpower. So let's just jump right in with the big one, okay? You've heard this a million times, right? In movies, on the internet, this idea that 90% of our incredible brain is just dormant, sitting there waiting for us to unlock it. It's a really cool thought, isn't it? The idea of all that untapped potential.
Yeah, but it's just not true at all. This is one of the most stubborn myths in all of psychology. I mean, surveys show that tons of people believe it, even some psychology students. And get this, even about 6% of neuroscientists. So where's the evidence for it? Well, there isn't any.
And that 10% myth, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's part of this massive web of misinformation that experts have a name for, psychomythology. It's basically a collection of all these urban legends and misconceptions about how we think. So let's start with why that 10% idea is just so wrong.
To get why, you just have to look at how much energy it takes to run a brain. Think about it. Your brain is only about, 2 or 3% of your body weight, but it gobbles up a whopping 20% of all the oxygen and calories you take in. From an evolutionary perspective, it is an incredibly expensive piece of equipment. So, does it make any sense that nature would let us waste all those resources on an organ that's 90% asleep? No way.
And this is the perfect way to understand why. See, we often get this picture of evolution as a straight line, like a ladder, with everything climbing up towards perfection. But that's not really how it works. It's much more like a huge, sprawling, branching bush. Every living thing, us included, is just a bundle of adaptations designed for a very specific environment. Our brains aren't just generally powerful, they're highly specialized.
And scientists have a name for our specialty, the cognitive niche. It just means that our #1 survival tool is our intelligence. We're the species that figured out how to make tools, how to hunt together, how to use language to pass on really complex ideas. Every single part of our brain was shaped by these real-world challenges. There are no silent, unused parts because, frankly, survival demanded we use everything we had.
Okay, so if the science is so clear on this, why do myths like the 10% one stick around? Why are we so easy to fool when it comes to our own minds? Well, it turns out our brains have some, let's call them glitches, that actually make us pretty vulnerable to bad information.
And this brings us right back to that idea of psychomythology. These aren't just random mistakes. There are patterns to how we get things wrong. So these myths, they often feel true. They sound plausible, and they tap right into our hopes and our biases. Let's just quickly break down 3 big reasons. First, word of mouth. A phrase like, we only use 10% of our brains is just, it's catchy, it's simple, and when you hear something over and over again, your brain starts to mistake that familiarity for truth. Second, we love easy answers. The idea that you can unlock a hidden superpower is way more fun than the boring reality of, hard work. And third, there's selective perception. We have this tendency to remember the times something seems to confirm what we believe, the hits, and we totally forget all the times it doesn't, the misses.
But this whole tendency to misunderstand our own minds, it goes way beyond just fun trivia myths. It can have really big consequences for how we see each other. To really get what I mean, let's look at how our whole understanding of intelligence is changing, using autism as a really powerful example. So the old view was all about deficit, a disability defined by what a person can't do. But now, a new view is emerging that reframes it as a difference, a unique way of seeing the world that can actually come with some incredible strengths.
And this quote from the climate activist Greta Thunberg, who has Asperger's, just nails this shift perfectly. People try to use her diagnosis as a way to criticize her, but she completely turned it around and reclaimed it. She basically argued that, in the right situation, her different way of seeing things isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. So what are these potential superpowers? Things like an intense, single-minded focus, a really strong sense of justice that isn't easily swayed by what other people think. For Thunberg, that means seeing the climate crisis in very stark, black and white terms, a kind of moral clarity that just cuts through all the noise. For a naturalist like Chris Packham, it's an ability to see details in nature that most of us would just walk right past. He says he can engage with the natural world with a much greater clarity and ease.
And this is the real takeaway. We started this by busting the myth of a hidden, unused 90% of our brain. But the real story here isn't about finding some secret locked-away potential.
It's about recognizing the incredible diversity of minds that are already out there. It's about shifting our focus away from a really narrow idea of normal intelligence and instead starting to appreciate the unique value that every single type of mind brings to the table.
I want to leave you with this really provocative thought from Chris Packham. He suggests that humanity has actually thrived because of people with autistic traits, the innovators, the scientists, the artists who saw the world differently. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other superpowers are we overlooking just because they don't fit into our neat little box of what a normal mind is supposed to be?